Good morning, good morning. It's time to start your day. Good morning, good morning. It's time to start your day. That My mother used to wake me up singing that all the time when I was a kid, and also what was the other one? Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful day! I've got plenty of sunshine. Everything's going my way. My mother was really into musical theater, and I used to enjoy it. In fact, my one of my favorite movies is Paint Your Wagon. If you've ever seen that, and I used to sing the songs to that all the time. But anyway, I hope you're finding peace, love, joy, and happiness in your life. Welcome to today. Today is Wednesday, the 8th, March 8th. Wonderful day. And uh, I feel compelled to share my story about getting into stand up comedy today because I think it's relevant. And I've had several people reaching out to me uh, because their life is not what they want it to be. They're feeling like they're feeling lost. They're feeling dejected. They feel like they don't fit in, um, which are very common themes in human life. Is you don't feel like you're a part of anything. In fact, this is kind of interesting. Cults, when they try to reach out to people and get you to join them, um, they play on that idea that everybody feels like an outsider all the almost all the time, even when we're with our friends and we have good friends or we're family. Everybody still kind of feels like an outsider because you still see everything differently than everybody else around you, even if you're very close to them. So it's easy to play on that idea that you're an outsider, and so they kind of latch onto that and they play on that. It's sort of a psychological manipulation is by telling you, oh, you feel underappreciated and you feel lonely and you feel like an outcast. And then you're sitting there thinking, oh, this guy knows me. Oh my goodness. Psychics use that trick too. That's one of those things that it's just something that everybody feels like. So when you say that to somebody, they go, hey, this person's a gifted genius because they know me. Oh, they just know the human condition. So we always feel kind of outside of everything because here we are, this sentient being, uh, and who knows when our earliest memory is. Have you ever done that little game where you try to remember what's the furthest back you can remember? What's your earliest memories of being a conscious human being? And my earliest memories are of, amazingly enough, watching Sesame Street and watching the news at night where they were giving a report of who all died in Vietnam. Uh, that was the world that I was introduced to. I came in, I was born in the summer of 69, June 3rd, 1969. And of course, this was, Woodstock, uh, the moon landing, Vietnam was going on, Nixon was president, so the world, would just come off of a lot of craziness going on in the world, still happening, as it were. This was the world I was born into. And there was this push to try to give children a better outlook on life. And I think it was a positive. You know, that was the idea of Sesame Street. Um, and I loved Sesame Street. When I grew up with Sesame Street. I'm the same age as Sesame Street, basically. Um, but anyway, so that some of my earliest memories are that, and then also I used to I wanted to be a superhero when I was a kid, and I had these two sweatshirts of a bear. It was a face of a bear, and he had a hat. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what this was from, but it said Ookla on the hat on the hat. So I had Ookla the bear, and so I was Ookla the super bear was my thing. Okay, I've come to learn later it was UCLA, by the way. But when I was a kid, it was Ookla. So anyway, so whenever I put on one of these sweatshirts, um, I was a superhero and I could do anything. And I'd go and run around the neighborhood and do all kinds of strange things. And oh, my superpowers came also from not just the sweatshirt, but also from eating Wonder Bread. And so I would take an entire loaf of Wonder Bread and eat it, and that gave me my superpowers. This is just so you know, this is some of my earliest memories of life. Right, we lived in Provo, Utah at the time, and we moved around a lot. Eventually, came back to Provo, but my earliest memories of life are in Provo, Utah. So anyway, so as I go on through life, I always felt like I was different than everybody else. I just seemed like everybody else was. I don't know. Seemed like everybody else was smarter. Seemed like everybody else was more talented. Everybody else was, you know, thinner, and I just felt like this fat little weirdo. And but I didn't care. I thought, well, this is who I am. This is who I am. I'm just going to deal with it, right? And I had um, pretty big family I grew up in. I had three brothers, two older, one younger. I have a younger sister and an older sister, and then I have two half brothers. Um, one lives currently in Oregon, and the other one passed away when he was a kid. In fact, he was killed in. Well, what had happened was he was playing tetherball at recess um, there in Vernal, Utah, and playing tetherball. That's the one where they have the pole, and then there's the rope and the ball. You know, if you've ever watched Napoleon Dynamite, you've seen that the tetherball. That's what he was playing that, and he get hit. He got hit in the head or something, and I don't know the exact story, but he was playing tetherball, got hit, fell back, hit his head on the ground, and went unconscious. He was still alive, still breathing, but he went unconscious. And so they called an ambulance. The ambulance came and picked him up. And as they're taking him, transporting him to the hospital, they had him lying on his back in the back of the ambulance, and the ambulance people were just sitting in the front seat, so they weren't paying attention to him. And he threw up on the way to the hospital, and ended up uh, choking to death. And anyway, I was the next child born to my father after uh, Douglas, his name was Douglas, died. And so that's where I got my name Douglas. My middle name Douglas was I was named after my half brother who had passed away just before I was born. So that's where that name comes to. If you're curious. So anyway, so this is the world I was born into. Large family, but it was still a very loving family. You know, so my dad always never felt like we were in want, but not rich by any stretch of imagination. Not we were probably lower middle class Is the best way to explain it. So we weren't poor, but we weren't anywhere near being rich. I had a lot of hand me downs for clothing. We used to go to it was called the DI in Utah, but it's basically Goodwill. It's the Utah version of Good. We have Goodwills here too, but DI is the big. Anyway, secondhand clothing is mostly what I wore through my childhood. But anyway, but I had several cousins that we used to hang out with. Um, and we would go to my grandmother's house, um, and we would put on these shows all the time. Um, we would do lip syncing and all kinds of things. The back part of my uh, grandparents' house was this big cement slab, and it was huge. And we used this as our stage, and we would put on shows for my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, and it was a lot of fun. My first performance was lip syncing Crocodile Rock, dressed as Elton John. That was my that was my first live performance. Uh, Loved it. I was like, oh yeah, this is it. I dig this. And we used to put on skits all the time. And being my cousin when we got older, my cousin Jeff, um, he was just a year older than me, and so we would put on these skits. We had this little routine that we did. It was called Rod and Jeffy. I was a straight man. He was the goofball, and we did a magic show where all the tricks were always messed up, and it was pretty funny. It was we used to do it for scout troops and all that kind of stuff. Um, Somebody's asking about Reams. Yes, there's a grocery store in Utah. I think there's still a few of them left, but it was called Reams, and it was one of these. It was like a small Walmart because it had everything. They had Western wear and boots, and then there was hot dogs and ice cream. Is what Court's freaking out. Yes, there was a Reeves not far from our house, so I used to go there all the time. So anyway, so we put on these shows, and we would have a blast, and that's where I really got my bug for performing, right? And of course, I used to watch Jonathan Winters and Red Skelton and all the kinds of people like that growing up. The Tonight Show, whenever I could, the celebrity roasts, I loved those. Those were a lot of fun, and also watching Hollywood Squares, because back in the 70s, the Hollywood Squares was some of the best joke writing there was. I mean, it was just so ridiculous, and some of the funniest characters in pop culture were on the Hollywood Squares, especially Paul Lynn. Um, if you ever get a chance, look up Paul Lynn. He was so funny. So anyway, so I was watching this. So I had a bug to be a performer, be an entertainer, and so I was always wanted to get into it. Wanted to get into theater. I was doing any chance there were plays at school. I was auditioning. I mean, I wanted to do it. And also, Saturday Night Live started when I was a kid, and I used to stay up on Saturday nights and watch it. Loved it. Belushi, um, Chevy Chase. Loved it. Gilda Radner. Gilda Radner is probably. It's a real shame that she died so young. Gilda Radner was probably one of the just one of the most purely, brilliantly funny people I think I've ever seen. And then of course Tim Conway on the Carol Burnett show. I loved everybody on the Carol Burnett show. Loved that show. Um, there was a lot of great comedy back in the days. And there was only three channels, so it wasn't like now. I mean, we all watched the same stuff. I mean, it was because that's all there was. So, but anyway, um, so I enjoyed performing. And as I said, I always felt like an outsider everywhere I was at. I mean, uh, uh, I went to school and felt like I was one of the poor kids, and I was a little overweight, so I was always a little chubby. Um, in fact, I talk about being a fat kid in my act, but I was bigger than most kids. You know how when you're younger, as you're growing up, the girls are usually taller than the boys until you hit about fifth or sixth grade, and then all of a sudden the boys hit their spurt and they get taller. But up until then, the girls are always taller. I was always just as tall as as I was tall. I was one of the tallest kids. I was big. I was a really big kid. I was 105 pounds in the third grade. Fourth grade, I was up to like 130. So I was a big kid. I was big, but I was pretty athletic because we used to do. Me and my brothers used to race everything all the time. Bikes. We used to do these Tonka trucks, the dump trucks. We'd build a racetrack in our backyard, and we would race the dump trucks as race cars because we were into race cars as a family. So I was pretty athletic. Anyway, as life goes on. Like I said, I always felt like an outsider in just about everything I did at church. I went to church. I loved going to church, but I always felt like um, kind of an outcast because we were poor. We weren't your typical. We weren't your typical Mormons. Um, and it was then that I developed an attitude where I would go to church out of spite. this, if this makes any sense. I knew there were people there that would look down on us, and I thought that was ridiculous. I said, how can you be a church going person who believes in God and loves Christ, and you're looking down on anybody at all, let alone somebody who's coming to church, somebody who's trying to improve their life, who's going there to um, uh, give themselves to God and dedicating themselves to a better way of living, and you're looking down on them for that. It used to bother me, but I wasn't like, well, I'm never going back there. My goal is I'm going to go. I want to go and piss these people off because how dare what they're the problem, not me. They're the problem. So anyway, that's a side note. But anyway, so as life went on, I became really obsessed with performing and with doing. Wanted to get into stand up. I wanted to get into improv. I started taking classes in school, improv. I was doing theater, um, but ultimately, I wanted to do stand up. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to get into it. And in retrospect, just in case you're wondering, if you want to get into stand up comedy, the best thing to do is find an open mic and go do it. Just come up with whatever you think is funny and get up there and do it. You're going to be horrible at it to begin with, regardless. So just do it anyway. Just get up there and go do it. Be bad at it. Um, but don't lock yourself into thinking that you're bad at it. You know what I mean? Just know, hey, this is the part where I'm bad at it. This is where I'm learning. Um, but that you're getting better all the time. So anyway, let me speed this story up. So I go through school, I graduate, and I've done some theater stuff, and I got an agent, and I was trying to get into acting, but nothing was happening. I was auditioning, and nothing was happening. Um, Eventually went on a mission for the church, and I came back, started auditioning, and I was going. I was auditioning I had one time, I think I auditioned like 5 times in one day. I mean, I was going everywhere, doing everything I could, just putting in the work to audition, 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 audition. It just wasn't getting anywhere. It was during that period. I remember one time I walked into an audition, and before I even said a word, I step in, and one of the ladies, there was four people sitting behind this desk or this table. I walk in, one lady, she says, "Oh, no, no, I'm sorry." And she says, "Your ears are lopsided, your nose is crooked. There's something weird going on with your eyes. You're not right for this part. We need." I believe the term she used was, "We need people with more symmetrical faces for this job." I think that's the most technical way to tell someone you're ugly. I didn't say a word. I was just like, and she was like, "No, no, you're sorry. Thank you for being here." And she did this. I'm like, uh, okay, I guess that's it. And so, so I was like, I didn't know what to think of this. I was just like, yeah, it was the most weirdest dejection I've ever had. I mean, I appreciated it to some degree, but it was like, oh, okay. Um, so I ended up joining the Marine Corps at this point because my acting career was going nowhere. I wasn't getting anything. I was going to college, I was acting, and just things weren't happening. And so, joined the Marine Corps, and of course, just before I went to boot camp, I met Teresa, and eventually we got married. And little did I know that getting married to Teresa was going to be the key to my stand-up comedy career. Because what happened was, well, um, I was always doing just silly characters and goofing off, making her laugh uh, as often as I could. I loved entertaining my wife, and then we'd have friends and stuff come over, and I would entertain them. I would goof off, and I would do all these little skits. And finally, my wife just kept pushing me. You need to do stand up. You need to do stand up. And so I get out of the Marine Corps. I got into a couple movies. I was in Independence Day and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm just a background character. So I really got the bug for movies and really wanted to get in it. So I kept pushing, pursuing the acting. And all I could get was background work. Really wasn't getting anything all that fantastic. Then finally one day, my wife took me to a stand-up comedy show, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I could do this. I think I could do this." It was a good boost of the confidence, but I was in Jacksonville, North Carolina. There really wasn't any open mics or anything to go to, and eventually we ended up moving because Tressa got a job in Missouri, so we moved to Missouri, and it was in Missouri. I started had a handyman service, and what it was is a property management company had all these apartments and houses and stuff that they rented out, and they would have work that needed to be done, and so they would hire me. I had the contract to go and fix all the stuff, do the plumbing, basic stuff. If it was real involved, then I would bring in an electrician or a plumber for something real involved. But most of the basic stuff I could handle. But I do painting and handyman stuff. And anyway, so one day there was a job that came in from this lady who had a townhouse that she was renting, who kept getting broke into, kept getting robbed because the people would break out the window next to her doorknob. Those little tiny windows. You have the door, and then you have that little part next to it, and there would be little windows right there. They'd break out one of those windows, reach in, and unlock her door. And so I came up with this idea. I said, well, why don't we take, I'm going to take two pieces of plexiglass, put them together, put them instead of glass, and then secure it better in the back so they can't break it. It's not that easy. So we go there. I bring a gentleman with me who's kind of helping me out, and I was teaching him how to score the plexiglass. What you do is you just kind of cut it and then you break it, you pop it, right? So I was showing him how to do that, and he wanted to cut it. So as we're on the ground on the driveway. We got the plexiglass laid out. I'm just kind of holding it so it won't move around. And I'm a little bit of the way from him. I'm kind of behind him, so I'm not in the way of the blade. It's not like I'm, you know, like he's cutting this way and I'm right here. I mean, I'm behind him. Well, anyway, he's cutting, and somehow he loses control. And as he's pushing pressure on it, he brings the knife back and swings and cuts the top. I can still have the scar. Cuts the top of my finger off. And so now I'm just freaked out. So like I said, I'm bleeding, so I'm holding it. Get home, my wife, and she comes and she takes me to the hospital, and I called my friend, another friend of mine. I said, told him about the job that I was working on, asked if he could come and finish it up, and he said no problem. So he came over and finished it, and grabbed the top of my finger. We go to the hospital, go to the emergency room, go in there, and I'm sitting there, and they're numbing me up, and they're sewing it back on. I'm thinking to myself, this is not what I wanted to do with my life. And just determined that's it. So I get home. I called my friend. He told me, we got it all finished and everything. And I said, well, look, I'm done with this job. I'm not doing these anymore. So do you want the contract? You want to just take it over? And he was thrilled because he had helped me with a bunch of jobs himself. So we had a nice relationship. We helped each other out all the time doing jobs. And so I just handed him the whole thing. I said, it's all yours. Sold him some of my equipment. I got rid of some stuff. And I was just like, I am going to be a stand-up comedian. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, but that's what I'm going to do with my life. And so I found an open mic in Kansas City, a place called Stanford and Sons. It was on a Monday night, and I went. A friend of ours came with us, and my wife. So the three of us went up there. Because I was new, I was the only new guy on the thing, first timer on the show. So they made me go last, and I followed two professional comics before me. One was a black guy who talked about what it would be like if he had boobs, and how he would his life. He would never go anywhere because he would just sit around play with his boobs all the time. That was his joke. That was his bit. And then there was this gal that got up there, and she talked about how she was a white girl, and she talked about how she hated white men and she preferred black guys, and all the reasons why. And it was very funny. She was funny. He was funny. It was great. They did great. And so then they bring me up. And my first joke was, being a white guy that has boobs, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do. So it got some laughs. I did call back to two comics ahead of me. It was great, and I was like, that's it. This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. This is it. And went on, did a few more jokes, and man, it was it. I was just, this is it. And so from that point on, I just started writing. I'd get up every Monday. After about 3 weeks of that, there was a guy who pulled me aside, another comic. He says, look, you're pretty funny. He says, you've only been doing it a couple times, but you're pretty funny. But you're never going to get anywhere if all you're doing is one open mic once a week. And I said, well, this is it. This is the only one I'm going to find. The other open mics I can find are all music ones. And he says, well, go create your own opportunities. Go create your own stage time. He says, go talk to some bars and say, hey, I'll bring a comedy show here. He says, get some of these other guys who've been doing it a little bit longer. They'll be happy to come and do your show if they get to do longer sets. They'll come and do it for, a free drink. Most of them. It says, if you can get them some money, that'd be cool. But they'll do it for the stage time. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went and talked to some different bars and restaurants there around in my town, and I set up a couple comedy nights and got some of the comics from the open mic that I knew that were pretty good, that had longer been in it longer. Brought them out. We started doing shows. I was emceeing, and that's really where you learn how to be a comic, is being an MC, because you have to go up in front of a cold crowd and get them going. So I'd go up there and I would do my bits and bring up these other guys, and it was a lot of fun. In fact, I started in November of 98. My first paid gig I did on New Year's Eve, going into 1999. I did a New Year's Eve show at a local bar, and they paid us, I think I had 6-7 comics on the show, and myself. I emceed. They paid us enough money that I was able to give everybody $20 for being on the show, and I got 15. That's what was left over. So I was tickled. I was thrilled. It was I got my first paid gig. I got $15. But the coolest thing was I got to give money to other comics, and some of them, it was the first time they'd ever gotten paid. They'd been doing comedy for a couple of years, and this was the first time they'd ever gotten paid anything, and I mean, basically just gas money, but, and they got free drinks. But I was like, okay, so this is it. So I started doing shows all over Kansas City area, and other friends of mine started doing the same thing. So we had it set up. We had where you could go and do comedy just about every single night of the week, because of all these shows that we had set up all over the place. So it was great. So I was getting a lot of stage time. So we were there for about a year, and then eventually, by the end of 99, we ended up moving back to Utah. And in 2000, we're there in Utah, and I started getting in with the comedy scene there, and started setting up my own shows at a Jordan Commons movie theater. I would set up shows late at night, and on Fridays and Saturdays, we do hypnosis and improv and comedy, and just it was a lot of fun. But it was also there that I met, during that time, I met Keith Stubbs, who was also running comedy shows. And he had owned a comedy club at one point in time, and was looking to start a new one, because he'd sold the one that he had. So he was looking to start a new one. And so I went all in with him, and we opened what is now Wise Guys comedy clubs in Utah. And I quit everything I was doing, and I went full in, and I was the house MC for every show for the first couple of years, and which was awesome. I got to work with incredible comics and just had a great time. And that's how it started. And the reason I bring this up is that there's an interesting thing with comedians, that there's a debate going on as to when do you consider yourself a real comedian? When can you really claim that you're a comedian? I mean, I thought, once you get up on stage and you tell a joke, you're a comedian. That's how I looked at it. And others, like, you're not a real comedian until you're paid. You're not a real comedian until you headline. You're not a real, there's always different ideas about it. But really, you're a comedian it's one of those things where you just decide that you are going to do it and you start doing it and then you are it. I think the sooner you tell yourself, yes, I am a comedian, um, then you start becoming a comedian. Now, part of it is it might be a bad comedian or a new comedian, but the important thing is just saying, okay, I am a comedian. And once I made that decision, because once I made the decision, I'm going to be a comedian, something changed because all the time before that, when I was always something I was going to do, I never really did anything about it. But once I made the decision, yes, I am a comedian, and I started writing jokes, I started writing material, I started thinking about material, started putting it, laying it out, and plotting and planning to get on stage. Once I made that decision in my mind that that's what I'm going to do, that's what I'm going to be, that's when I started making advancements towards doing it. That's when it all started happening for me. And this is the lesson that I would share with you today is that whatever it is that you want to be, whatever it is that you want to achieve in your life, as long as you're thinking in the future, someday I'm going to get it. Someday I'll be that. Someday I'll achieve that. Someday. The someday never comes. What you have, because you're all, a lot of it, we're always looking for perfection. It's like I've got to be perfect. I've got to be an amazing uh, at everything before I can do it. So we always have this fallacy in our head that we have to be the best at it before we can ever do it, or that we have to be a natural at it to be able to do it or do it correctly, which is dumb. There's very few people who are just a true natural at anything. There's always a learning curve. There's always a point where you're bad at it that you just jump in and start doing it. And this is not just for performance, as a comedian or a musician or whatever it is that you want to be, but also just in your normal everyday life. Like, let's say you want to be happy. You want to have happiness in your life. Well, if you attach happiness to something that in the future, something you've got to go obtain, you're never going to get it. You're never going to achieve it because your brain is thinking we're pursuing happiness, not we have happiness. Right? So as long as I was always thinking someday I'll be a comedian, I was never going to be a comedian. I was never going to pursue it. I was never going to do anything about it because it was always something out there I was never going to uh, go after. I wasn't a comedian, but I wanted to be a comedian. But as long as I told myself I wasn't a comedian, then I was never going to do comedian stuff. I was never achieve it. But once I decided I am a comedian, when I made that distinction in my mind, I am a comedian, I'm doing this, that's when it started happening. That's when I started writing jokes. That's when I started coming with ideas. That's where I started looking for opportunities to get on stage. That's when doors started opening. That's when I started putting myself in a position to achieve. That's when I started achieving it. Well, you can apply that to anything else: happiness, um, uh, peace of mind, whatever, health. When you just decide I am a healthy person, if you're trying to lose weight or trying to be in a better healthy state, as long as you're always thinking, well, someday I'll lose the weight, someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that, and then I'll be healthy. Your brain will never let you be healthy because you've accepted I'm not healthy until something happens. Well, when you eliminate that idea and just say, I am healthy, I am a healthy person, I do healthy things, I eat properly, I get lots of sleep. When you accept that um, as your reality, your body starts going, your brain starts accepting it and goes, no, we're healthy. You'll start making healthier choices. You really will. It'll freak you out. But when you just tell yourself, I'm healthy, I'm smart, um, I'm focused, I get things done. I accomplish my goals. When you tell yourself this, your brain goes, oh, okay, is that what we're doing now? And you start doing it. And again, as I said before, I hate to be the bearer of good news, but that's the answer. All the answers are easy. Now, the execution is the issue. Actually getting off your butt and doing it. That's the issue. But you got to start. You got to start. As we call it, manifesting, or as I've always liked to call it, prayer. Um, when you pray, if you pray that you want something, and this is something that the scriptures talk, don't pray that you want something. Pray for instead of praying to obtain something, pray for gratitude for having already received it. And that will change everything in the way you pray, in the way you understand prayer, when you understand yourself, when you pray with gratitude that thank you for my health. Thank you for my understanding. Thank you for the love I have in my life. Thank you for the love that I give in my life. Then all of a sudden it changes the way you think. And when you change that way you think, it changes the way you do things, and it changes what you do. And you will find so much more happiness in your life. And so I hope that you are doing that sort of, and it's really simple. Now, as I've said before, you can't just say the words and then not do anything. But saying the words is important because it helps you put in the right frame of mind. So when you say, I am healthy, I do healthy things, I take good care of myself, I exercise, I enjoy exercise, I enjoy eating healthy. And this is one thing that eating eating healthy has been a challenge for me because I've traveled so much. I fell into that trap where I was just always eating out. So I was always eating fast food. And when you're eating that way, you become very limited in the way you think because you think that the only food available to you is fast food. And so you start thinking that way. And then you get into that trap where you're just, oh, everything is just, burgers and pizza and chicken nuggets or you're limited in what you eat, and so you start eating a lot of this garbage over and over again, right? But when you start thinking I'm going to eat healthier, man, the whole world opens up to you. When you start thinking of adding more variety to your life. My wife started, God bless her, I love her dearly, but she started one of these meal programs where they send you the food and you make it. I think it's called One Plate. There's like Blue Apron. There's a bunch of them that do it, and they send you the food and the instructions to put it all together. Everything's measured out for you and everything. So you just put it all together, and these meals are amazing. And we're eating stuff that I would never in a million years even think to do, but they're so tasty, and there's a lot. They put in a lot of variety of different spices and just different combinations. It is incredible. And just in doing that, man, it's really opened up. We're all it's me and my son and Tress and my wife here at the house, and yeah, Hello Fresh. It's been fun, and now I don't even think about going to fast food. I don't when I'm out driving around. I'm not thinking I need to stop and eat somewhere. I'm thinking I need to go home. I'm looking forward to going home and eating because the food at home is better than anything I'm eating it out at any restaurant. In fact, I did eat at a restaurant last week, and it made me sick. I was disappointed in the food quality because the quality of the food that I'm making at home is better by far than anything I'm getting in a restaurant. And just eating healthier, and it's just a simple little change, and it's crazy how just doing that one little thing. And so now it's inspired me to, I don't eat as much junk food. I've stopped drinking sugary sodas. I'm eating healthier. I want to eat healthier. I enjoy eating healthier. I enjoy eating something new all the time, so trying out different things and bringing lots of flavor. That's the other thing, is just so much flavor in in food when you're adding spices and all. Oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. So if you're stuck in your life, if you're stuck, now here's the other thing, people. If you want to try one of these, I'm not paid by any of these companies. Just so we know this. All right, everybody, I'm not paid. I'm not. I don't have any sponsors for whatever it is that I'm doing here. Um, but if you know somebody who's in one of these programs, a HelloFresh, First Plate, Blue Apron, any of these things, most of them have a thing where they'll send you, if your friend, and your friend can give you a thing where they can get you a free sample, so you get a free meal sent to you to start this. We found that we've saved money also on our groceries by doing this, a lot. So that so I really I'm sold on these programs. And I said I'm not sponsored by anybody, but I had to encourage you to get involved in one of these things. They're a lot of fun. Um, okay. So those of you who own restaurants, I'm not. I don't have anything against you. I really don't. But I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. I'm sure there's a lot of wonderful restaurants out there. Nothing against you guys. There's still a lot of wonderful places to eat. There's still, but not the fast food. If you're going to go out and eat, this is my thing: is go to. I like to pick out the mom and pop places. I like to find the independent places. They're usually better anyway. They have a better quality of food than your chain restaurants. Um, um, like I went in. I'm not going to say which one it was, but I had a friend who managed one of these um, cookie cutter restaurants, and I was there visiting one day, and I had to go back into his office, and so I'm walking through the kitchen. And as I'm walking through this kitchen, there are plastic bags everywhere. Plastic bags all over the place. I mean, it looks like a disaster. It looked like a tornado came through in this kitchen. And I'm like looking around all this, and I'm going, what is going on here? What's all this plastic bags from? He says, oh, that's what the food comes in. I'm like, what? And he says, yeah, our shipment comes in, everything's in plastic bags, um, and we just microwave it and send it out. I'm like, you mean none of this food is cooked? He says, well, meats like a hamburger, chicken, steaks, those are all cooked to order, but everything else, I think pastas, they had to still cook the pastas, but everything else is microwaved. Like almost all the hors d'oeuvres or appetizers, all just microwaved and sent out. There was a big bank of microwaves. It's like 20 microwaves, and each table had its own microwave. It was it was insane, and I was like, I'm paying all this money to eat a TV dinner. Is that what you're telling me? And he's just like, yeah. I'm like, do you eat here? And he goes, oh no. Oh, okay. And so I stopped eating a lot of those chain restaurants because, especially that one in particular, because I'm like, I don't, I'm going to pay all that money. I'm not going to pay for TV dinner. I might as well stay at home and get a Stouffer's. So, but And yeah, that's the part of the issue I will mention is that I am diabetic, and so this is I think doing this my wife's way of trying to keep me around. So, but it has helped it by doing this, by doing these meals, and uh, in conjunction also with some intermittent fasting, and I've been exercising more regularly at the Planet Fitness. Um, I've been bringing my blood sugars down, so I've been a lot happier. So it's been good. So anyway, so that's my message for today. Is that whatever it is that you want to do, you want to achieve in your life, don't stop putting it into the future. Stop making it something you're going to get to. Make it something that you already are. It's like I've been telling myself that I am a musician and that I play the guitar. I only know uh, three chords, and I don't play them well, but I know three chords. And but I'm by telling myself I'm a musician, and what's happening is I'm picking up the guitar more. I'm playing around with it more, and it was kind of funny. I had to go to Guitar Center the other day to pick up a little, um, just a little tiny adapter for my headphones. And as I'm walking around, I bought stuff from Guitar Center quite a bit because I get a lot of microphones and stuff there, and sound equipment for being a comic. Sometimes you have to bring your own sound equipment to gigs, and but I never thought of myself as a musician. But this last time I walked in there, I just thought, hey, I'm a musician. I play the guitar, and it was funny because it reminded me of just basically when I started doing comedy, because I was like, I have no business telling myself I'm a comedian, but I needed to tell myself I was a comedian. And as soon as I accepted that I was a comedian, then I started doing comedian stuff. And so now, yesterday, when I told you all I'm learning the guitar, I thought, okay, I need to approach this the same way I did comedy, and that is just accept that I am a comedian, that I am a musician, and I play the guitar, and I sing. And just started doing it. And yesterday was a pretty good day with the guitar, and I'm looking to do more today. And one of these times when I feel a little confident, feel a little more confident, I'll play something for you. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So that's it for this morning. It's my message for today. I hope that finds you well. Thank you all for joining me. I haven't advertised this much, so the only people who know I'm doing this is a few of you, because this is my practice. This is my because again, I told myself also I'm a podcaster, so I got to start doing podcasting things. So this is part of it all. Also, is in I'm podcasting uh, live and in person. Probably not the best way to do it, um, but this is where I'm starting. So I want to put a band together. Just so you know, here's my goal. I want to put together a band, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. And it'll be enjoyable if I could do that. Got some song ideas. I'll share them with you some point in time. But so here I am, a comedian, podcaster, musician, singer. I'm bad at all of them, but I'm still doing them. I don't care. I'm having fun, and I hope that you're getting out there and having something, doing some fun stuff yourself. I hope that you are challenging yourself. I hope that you are going to take this opportunity and say, "Hey, what do I want to do with my life?" and just tell yourself whatever it is. You say, yeah, I want to become a performance artist. Then stop saying I'm going to become a performance artist. Say I am a performance artist. And then come up with something you want to perform and do it. Just do it, my friends. Get off your butt. Think of something weird you want to go do and do it. Time's a wasted. You don't have. We only get one shot at this life. Maybe we get reincarnated. We come back. I don't know. Um, but you got this life. What are you going to do with it? Get the hand you're dealt with and do something with it, my friends. Okay, somebody's asking, do you read the comments live? Yes. Okay, so here's my strategy for lives as I have come to learn. Um, I'm gonna stay on. I'm gonna read some of your comments, try to answer your questions, um, more so than I've done in the last 2 days. But some people who are coming on to the live and they just want to hear the message. They don't necessarily want to hear what Ricky from Ohio wants to know what kind of breakfast cereal I eat. There's a guy in Seattle who's at work right now. Probably doesn't want to hear what I eat for cereal. But I don't eat cereal, by the way. I stopped eating cereal 9 years ago because it's all mostly sugar, just so you know. So yeah, I'm going to stick around here and answer your questions. But what was happening before I go live, I got too distracted and I would just spend the whole time answering questions, and then I didn't get to what I wanted to talk about. So now I talked about what I want to talk about. Now it's your turn. Let's ask it. Let's talk your questions. A lot of thank yous. I feel, yeah. Okay, so far most of the questions, things that I've read, you guys are just saying that I'm wonderful, which I appreciate. I love all of you. Thank you, because you guys are awesome too. Do I ever go back to Kansas City? Yes, I would like to come back to Kansas City. I have family that lives in Missouri, in Gallatin, and my sister had a restaurant up there for a little while. But I do get back. I loved Kansas City. I've been trying to get in with the comedy club there in Kansas City, but they won't return my calls. So I'm sort of in a weird position right now with the comedy world because I'm not known enough for them to care about booking me. So I get booked, but not as frequently as most comics. So do I think that Kansas City was a great place to start? Yes, Kansas City was a great place to start doing comedy. I still think it is. I think there's a really good, strong community for comedy in Kansas City. Um, and that's part of it. If you want to become a comedian, find your local comedy scene. Go to the open mics. Um, maybe go pick up a couple and just go check it out. Get your confidence up. Go meet some people and talk to them. Most comedians are actually really happy to help you out. Most comedians um, uh, love the journey. They love the passion of comedy, and they love other comedians, and they love seeing other people get into it. Now it becomes competitive. It's just like anything else. But if you want to do it, that's it. Get into it. Um, um, Go find a scene and get into it. Go find an open mic, write a couple jokes, get up there and do it. Now, when you first when you first do comedy, um, I suggest you only plan for doing 1 minute of time because you're usually only going to get 3 minutes of comedy time. You're only getting 3 minutes on stage. And if you try to plan 3 minutes, you're going to overwhelm yourself. It's too much to have to think about all at once, especially when you're nervous. Um, you're going to feel rushed because you're trying to get it all in. But just plan on 1 minute of comedy. Write out 1 minute and get that down, and then get up there and do it. Nobody's going to fault you for going short. In fact, if you go an open mic and you go short, they'll like you because that means more. They get out of there sooner. So please, 1 minute, find an open mic, get the minute memorized, have it ready to go, get up there, do it. If you need to take notes up there. There's no fault for that. I would suggest getting off notes as soon as possible. But if you have to, if it makes you feel better your first time isn't going to make or break your career. So just get up there and just do it. But if you just do 1 minute, then you got time that you don't have to feel rushed. You can just do your time. Make sure that what you're doing is working. You're going to pay attention to how the jokes land, record it, watch it when you're done. I know I hate watching myself because I'm very critical of myself personally. But you got to watch and see what you're doing, see what you're making mistakes, see what you're doing wrong. Just get up there and do it. Yeah, it doesn't seem, Mr. Knight there, or Miss Knight. 3 minutes doesn't sound like it's a lot of time. In fact, I hear people say, "Oh, 3 minutes. I didn't even get started in 3 minutes." Well, if you can't look, if you go audition for America's Got Talent or Last Comic Standing or anything else, you get 90 seconds to audition. 90 seconds. You get a minute and a half to audition. That's how they determine if they want you or not. 90 seconds. So you have to get good at being really funny really fast. So just focus on 1 minute. Do I think the moon phases affect our lives? No, I do not. I think we look for other things that we want to push our foibles to. We want scapegoats, and so we're always pushing that something else is creating this thing. You are in control. Everything is coming from you. It's all you. It's always been you. It'll always be you. Don't accept this idea that external things are changing, are manipulating, controlling your life. You are the one in control of your life. You are the one who creates your reality. Oh, thank you, Danny. So my YouTube. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, everybody. I got stand up. I just posted this. A show I did back in November it was going to be something I was going to shop around to try to get onto something bigger, but I made some mistakes in this set for the show. I didn't get all the material in that I wanted to. I got distracted and did some stuff that I hadn't intended to do that night. And so I ended up just posting it. So if you want to go see it, it's on YouTube. Rodney at the Hartford Funny Bone. So anyway, hey, I've got to go. I had some dragon fruit yesterday, and it is kicking in. I gotta go relieve myself. So everybody have a great day. You're super freaking awesome. Join me tomorrow. We're gonna do this again tomorrow, 9:00 a.m. I'll be taking more questions. We'll do some back and forth tomorrow. I have a shorter question, and that's it. That's it. Thank you again. You guys have been beautiful. I love each and every one of you. Have an amazing, incredible day. If you got questions, comments, concerns you want to share with me, you can do so at rodneynorman.com. If you send a message through rodneynorman.com, my wife will read it, so the likelihood that I'll actually hear the message increases exponentially. So thank you again. You're amazing. You're beautiful. Have a super freaking awesome day. Okay. Bye.